Hello, I'm Naimish and welcome to my channel Ruhani Awaz, where we explore ideas that will help you put soul into your songs.
Saga mada pa gama pa gama re ni re ni dha pada ni sa re ga re sa.
Mark my word, you will learn your next composition faster if you spend more time listening and less time in singing. Now, this sounds like an oxymoron, so let's explore this topic today. Let me share with you my personal story about my music journey with my teacher. I met my teacher once a week. The first question my teacher would ask me would be, what did I listen the week before? And who did I listen to? It was never about how many hours of practice I put in. I think that was given. So this listening aspect of music to improve your music is very critical. I'm sure your gurus probably have also told you that you should listen to music, different kinds of music. The question is, how much time should you spend in listening to music versus practice? And how do you listen to music? What should you be listening for? Unfortunately, teachers talk about these topics in a very informal way. So today, I want to give you my perspective on listening. So let's first talk about how much time should you spend in listening. If you are a musician or a singer watching this video, answer this question to yourself. How much time do you spend in listening to your composition versus actually practicing it? What is that ratio? Let me share with you mine. I generally do music practice for about an hour and a half. That's my average. Now, out of this hour and a half, first about 30 minutes actually goes in what I call skills practice or technical practice. What do I mean by that? This is where I do my low notes, Riyaz. I do some paltas, some notes combination, some tans, some alaps, etc. So let's not count those 30 minutes working towards composition. When I sit down and start working on my composition, I say the ratio between listening and actually performing is 30 minutes each. Now, obviously, I'm not spending first 30 minutes in listening and the next 30 minutes in practicing. It's usually listen, practice, listen, practice, listen, practice. But generally, it comes to about 30 minutes listening, 30 minutes practicing. Now, listening during my hands-on Riyaz time is what I call active listening. And I will explain what do I mean by active listening. Then, during the day, I generally go for long walks or go to the gym. And at that time, I listen to my composition for another about 30 to 45 minutes. Generally, I put my composition in a loop mode. So I keep listening to the same composition several times during those 30 to 45 minutes. So in my case, listening to singing ratio is 2 to 1. 30 minutes of active listening, 30 minutes of passive listening, and 30 minutes of actually singing or practicing. Now, some of you ask, how did I come up with this ratio? Now, there is absolutely no scientific reason. But I will offer you a piece of advice. I would say words of wisdom that might help you not just in singing, but in your professional life as well as your personal relationships. You see, we are given 2 ears and 1 tongue. So naturally, the God intended for us to listen twice the amount we speak. You may challenge this 2 to 1 ratio. I would rather you challenge me on the side of you need to listen more versus less. So now let's talk about active listening versus passive listening. What is active listening? Active listening involves focused attention and without your ego's involvement. Now, I'm not using the word ego in a negative sense. What all I'm saying is your you need to contain your excitement and enthusiasm for singing while you are doing active listening. You need to be completely quiet, both internally and externally, meaning you quiet your inner voice as well as vocalization. You just absorb the composition. Listen to it as quietly as possible. Absorb the composition, all the technical details. And then the next phase is where you start to analyze those technical details. Let's break it down further. When you are doing active listening, you dissect the song, vocals. You pay attention to vocals first, or instrumentation, it doesn't matter, but pay attention to one or the other aspect and focus on that aspect only. And when you're focusing on the vocals, pay attention to special effects that the singer is introducing, such as vibrato, mead, or glides. Pay attention to the dynamics, because singers use dynamics to create emotional effects. The second thing you want to focus on, when you're focusing on instrumentation, try to understand, if possible, understand the notes if you can, figure that out, and generally understand how the instrumentation and vocals blend with each other. In my previous talk, I mentioned the importance of first note. If you listen to instrumentation, you often get the hint for your note on which you should start your line. So that's another thing you may benefit from if you listen to instrumentation aspect very carefully. The other thing this active listening does is actually trains your ear. Ear training is very critical for learning music. Finally, when you do active listening and when you understand all these details, you develop an emotional connection with the composition. And making that emotional connection is very, very critical when you are actually performing it. So now let's talk about passive listening. As I said, passive listening is when you are listening to music but not actively engaged. Like in my case, my passive listening happens when I go on my long walks or when I'm working out in the gym. What is the purpose of passive listening? First of all, it's casual listening, so the purpose is naturally the entertainment. There is no clear intention of dissecting the music, so there's a lack of intention, but enjoyment is the most important element of passive listening. And when you're enjoying something, you do pick up certain things here and there, and you don't even realize it. The other thing that you may want to do during passive listening phase is you may want to listen to more than one singer performing the same composition. You will find many singers' renditions of the composition. And the most important thing that happens during passive listening is that you are subconsciously learning the composition. In summary, the purpose of active listening is to study music, while passive listening is to enjoy music. I will leave you with one final note about listening. It is very important to listen to other singers singing the composition you are working on. But equally important is for you to listen to your own self, not only while you're singing it, but make it a practice to record yourself and analyze your singing.